Hi everybody, thanks for joining us with our Hangout on Air this week, covering keywords and bids. So the topic of today and what we're going to cover is understanding keywords, how to have the best keywords for your campaign and to get you the best return. So we'll cover match types, how to add negative keywords, and also the search term support. And then at the very end, we'll cover a basic understanding of manual bidding. Joining me today is my colleague Carl.
Hi.
He's an expert on everything related to optimizing an account and getting you better online sales. So thanks for joining us, Carl.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're just going to jump right into it. The first thing we're going to cover today is just what the best way to organize keywords are and what best idea of what keywords should look like. Can you just get us started on that, Carl?
Yeah, so absolutely. As many of you probably already know, your keywords are actually the foundation of your AdWords account and the campaigns that you create within your AdWords account. So this means that with your keywords, you do want to select very specific keywords to use in order for people to find them on a Google search. So what we typically recommend is refraining from using generic one-word keywords like boot and trying to use more specific keywords like men's leather boot, which is a more specific keyword to find.
Right, exactly. So yeah, if we were selling boots or shoes generally, right, we would want a campaign that would cover specifically boots and then even more specifically than that, men's leather boots. So that'll be the keyword that we use throughout the session. So we'll be hearing that a lot. But yeah, that's really, really good advice. So why don't we jump in and maybe just talk about the various match types that we have for keywords and how user searches match out to the keywords that we're using.
Yeah, exactly. So there are different match types, or what we call them, in terms of how people can actually find your ad via those keywords. They range from being very broad, starting from broad match, to being very specific, to which we call exact match, in which people can find you on a Google search.
Perfect. So let's just jump into an actual account and take a look at how these match types look and how to set them up.
So the first match type that we actually see here is what we call broad match. So as I said earlier, broad match, as the name suggests, does reach a broader audience. It's more general, and there's a wider audience that's able to find you from this match type that you see.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So there's no punctuation around it. So there's nothing around it. It's just the word itself. Or
yeah,
the
and you
phrase
can
of
see
words.
that here in this example that's showing up on the screen there. There's no special punctuation around it. Other match types that we'll get into in a moment do have other symbols that we'll see.
Mm-hmm. And this is the most broad that you can get. So you're going to reach the widest net. So it can be any combination, any variation of these words that you're using. So an example could be somebody just typing in men's boot or leather boot. You could still show for this. So not every word has to be there. And it can be in a different order and different variations. So that's, again, the most general that we're going to get. So what's next?
So the next one we actually have is broad match modifier. This one, unlike broad match, actually does have a special punctuation. You can see it here actually has the plus symbol. So the plus symbol simply indicates that the words that have that plus symbol to the immediate left of it must be included in the search in order for your ad to show. So if we stick with our example of men's leather boot, if you have a keyword that's plus men, space, leather, space, plus boot, the words men and boot must be included, but the word leather does not have to be included. This is a more specific match type than broad, but not as broad as the one we talked about earlier, broad match.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. So it's just tightening up a little bit. You're still reaching a pretty broad audience, but it's more specific than the general broad match. What's our third one?
So the third one that we have here, and there's 4 of them, the third one that we have is what we call phrase match. Phrase match, the special punctuation that you see here are these quotation marks listed around it. This simply means that the word within the quotation marks must be included in the search in order for your ad to show, and it must also be in that order. So again, going back to the example of men's leather boots, the phrase men's leather boots must be included in the search. There can be things before or after it, which distinguishes it from broad match modifier. So an example that I like to give is if someone types in, I'm looking for men's leather boots, that's perfectly fine. That falls within phrase match because the phrase men's leather boots is still in there in that order.
Exactly. So yeah, again, as an online retailer, right, if somebody was searching for men's leather boot sale, right, you could still show for that using phrase match because it's still intact.
Correct, correct.
Awesome. And the last one?
The last one we have here is exact. So as the name suggests, it is a more exact keyword match type.
Right, aptly named for sure.
Absolutely. So the person searching must actually type in that keyword exactly as it's showing in this list here. So again, using men's leather boots, they must just type in men's leather boots. Nothing else before, nothing else after, like phrase match that we talked about.
Right. So if you have very specific products that you're selling and you want to reach the most exact purchaser or buyer, then exact match might be the best for you because you know exactly that person has to type it in for them to see your ad. Cool. So that's really helpful information. We went through it pretty quickly, but we do have really helpful information on our Help Center. If you had additional questions about these match types, just do a search for that in the Edwards Help Center. But another really cool tool we have, and I want Carl to sort of go more in depth about, is what we call the search terms report, which actually, I think, if you correct me if I'm wrong, allows you to see what users actually search for and how that matches.
It does. So this is a question we frequently get from our advertisers using AdWords. They want to know how their keywords are actually matching out and how people are actually searching for them on a Google search. So the search terms report can be found within the keyword section of a campaign. If you click on the details tab or button within that campaign, and that keyword section, you should be able to see a section that reads search terms report. Your search terms report actually does show you exactly as we talked about the certain searches that people were searching for and the different match type that they were showing for as well.
Yeah, exactly. In our example, this is a test account that we have. We don't have a live active one, so obviously we don't have any search terms here. One good rule of thumb, though, is if you are viewing this in your own account right now, expand your date range to at least the last 7 days, if not more, to give the system a little bit more data to go off of. But exactly as Carl said, you'll see the search terms column will give you the exact searches that were done by the user, and then it'll show you how it matched, the actual match type, everything we just covered, and then the general regular metrics for your keywords like impressions, clicks, and so on. So the other really cool thing about this part of the account, and what I think is really useful, is that you can use this search terms report to then do more with your keywords, right?
Yes. So when you say do more, talk about negative keywords.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
You may see in your list in your search terms report, there may be keywords that you didn't want to show for, keywords that were not really useful or relevant to you. This is a great way to use the search terms report, and by adding negative keywords. You can add negative keywords within your keywords tab by going to the very bottom of your keywords list, and there's a blue link to add negative keywords. So some negative keywords that you probably would want to add for your business would be like free, cheap, scam. Any keyword that you don't want to be associated to or be related to would be inside of that negative keyword list.
Yeah, and that's really good advice. Just to go back, again, so from the search terms report, add them right there from searches that you found, or under the regular keywords tab, again, as Carl mentioned, you can add specific ones that you know before you even start running.
Right.
And I think free is definitely a really good one. Yeah, scammy things like that are really, really good negative keywords that you should add. So that's super helpful. The last thing that I think we should cover before we end and close things out today is actually how you should bid with these keywords. So next week we're going to get into more advanced bidding options, but today I want us to focus on manual bidding. So those of you who are using manual bidding, setting your own bids for your keywords, how we should be doing that now that we have a more solidified and concrete keyword list.
Yeah, bidding is extremely important, especially if you're trying to gather more online sales. So one of the things that we like to talk about with our advertisers is making sure that you're bidding competitively. This is useful for your click-through rate. So if you're not familiar with click-through rate, it's the ratio of clicks to impressions. Typically, the higher your click-through rate, the closer that person is to a buying decision. So it's important that we're able to show you in a good position on a Google search. Typically, at the top is where a lot of advertisers want to show. Your bids are what help you get to the top. That's a main thing that we look at to be able to show you higher on the page.
Right. So if you have a strong click-through rate, and we consider anything around a 1% or better to be strong, you probably want to increase your bid on that to make sure you're staying competitive for those firms that are getting you good results.
Obviously, the higher the better. But
yeah. Also, another thing that you can see here, actually, if we jump back into the account where we were just looking, this keyword that we have here, it's actually showing us that it's below the first page bid, which is a good indicator. The system is telling us that this keyword, the bid we have for right now, is a little bit low in comparison to other people who are using the same term. So that's a good indicator to you might want to increase your manual bid, and you can do that right here as we're showing you in the account. The last thing with bidding, and I think that'll be it, is just if you are doing online sales, as many of you do, you're online retailers, conversions are really important. And so if you are using conversion tracking, and I would suggest you do so, and we have other sessions on that probably coming up, you can use that conversion data to also improve what bids you actually have.
Absolutely, and that's a good point to mention. As I mentioned earlier, when you are showing at the top, we do typically see conversions also increase as you're showing higher on the page.
Right, exactly. So a more competitive bid, get you to the top of that page, getting people going to your website and making those purchases. Awesome. But yeah, it all stems from the keywords and then circle it back to those bids. Well, Carl, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you being here. It's been really helpful.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. And make sure to tune in next week as we go over some more of those advanced bidding features. But that's all for us today. Take care.